understanding of issues in and around state government. And down here, we have known that I had a 50-50 seat since the day it was drawn. From the first moment of the campaign, we've been running it as a 50-50 seat and running it up to this very moment. So nothing has surprised us yet about that topic. And so we have really pressed to try to make the contrast of what we stand for, as Danica just mentioned to you, and what we've seen over the past couple of years with the Republican control of the House of Delegates. And you can start with the voter laws, voter expansion, whether it was the drop boxes, early voting opportunities, same-day registration, no-fault absentee, go down the litany of all of them. And we have seen them, the effort to either repeal them entirely or to roll them back substantially come over from the House of Delegates, and where we put a stop to them, because these are the things that giving people more opportunity to vote, more people being involved in the process is we believe, great for democracy. And so we were just not going to yield on that, but a change in the state Senate or in my seat would absolutely do away with those things that we have seen to be so successful. There's a stark contrast on the environmental work. I am on the committee that governs all environmental policies in the state Senate. So we've worked very hard through the Clean Economy Act. I carried the standalone offshore wind bill that essentially got rolled into the Clean Economy Act and said all along that you can be good for the environment, good for renewable energy, and good for the economic development and business. Offshore wind is going to be a boon to the Port of Virginia, to southeastern Virginia, and the Commonwealth of Virginia and the nation. With our unimpeded port midway through the Atlantic, we can stage work up and down the East Coast on this incredible industry that's going to only grow. We refused efforts to get out of the green. We first passed the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative and then pushed back efforts to get us out. The governor seems to think he can unilaterally do that through the executive branch. We disagree, as we passed it legislatively. So again, all of our environmental efforts and the moves towards cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay, you would see go away when we need to make even more progress and have continued to do so along the way. But my opponent and the other side have used the gun issue when we should have been discussing gun violence and ways to prevent it. My opponent had used that years ago as the beginning of a culture war, and he declared his county and York and Poquoson to be a Second Amendment sanctuary, that no laws that were in violation of the Second Amendment right would be enforced, and/or no resources used to help federal or state officials to apply them. He spoke about it on the state capitol years ago on the day that there was such a large turnout. As we pass what we believe to be common sense gun issues. But we've seen one thing that's been extremely gratifying is the Senate held out from the start to not provide further tax cuts. We did tax breaks last year, and to promote and put money towards education. And we held out for that. We compromised, as is the nature of the General Assembly, to give a tax rebate, but got upwards of another $700 million applied to education. And as Danica said, with Democratic majorities, you are going to only see that grow. Whereas the other side continues the culture war. I am the father and the parent of a 15 and a 13-year-old in our public schools. I know what it's like to fight for my daughter. She has a specialized learning plan. But fighting for my daughter does not mean antagonistically approaching the schools and teachers as adversaries. It means sitting around the table with my teacher, my daughter's teacher, her reading specialist, the principal, the social worker, the whole team, to come up with a plan, and it will go a way forward for her to be successful. And that's what we're promoting. That's what we're trying to insist upon. And then finally, in my district, the typical old, I'm going to cut all your taxes versus we're tax and spend liberals, has given us a chance to point to the groundbreaking and monumental projects in transportation that have happened on the Virginia Peninsula and continue to this day. We widened 64 on the Virginia Peninsula. That has just been an amazing change to us here in our lifestyle, and currently have a $3.8 billion project moving forward to put 2 new tunnels going to Norfolk. And $3.2 billion of that, 92% of that money, comes from our sales and use tax and our gas tax. And my opponent consistently supports all of these wonderful transportation efforts, but sells you in the same breath that he's going to repeal all the taxes that provide the resources. We know you can't have it both ways. We know that's not the way it works. And we're continuing to work to widen 64 all the way to Richmond. We know that's what the people of this district and this region want and need. And we understand we have to provide the resources to do it. So we continue to fight on these issues. Danica mentioned the 15-week ban. The governor is running ads trying to sell that in my region at the same time that Christopher Newport University, which is in the heart of my district, came out and said that 72% of Virginians either want the law to stay as it is or less restrictions on abortion today. So as Danica said earlier, we wrote a firm law that should not be touched. And we believe and see very clearly that the people are on our side as we discuss these topics. So again, running in a 50-50 seat, I'm a good person to give that seat, to give that challenge to. And we know it's a challenge, so we're working hard. The early voting that was mentioned earlier, we're working hard to promote and push that. But also now, we've been persuading and talking to as many independents as we can because we know they break our way on so many of the issues that we've talked about today. And so we're going to continue to push hard for the next couple of weeks to bring this thing home. So we're in a good position. We believe we're on the side of history, the right side of history on these critical and monumental issues, and continue to promote, as Danica said, our record. Last year, I passed 17 bills. 10 of them had Republican patrons or co-patrons from the House of Delegates or from the Senate. So we have to work together. We have to move this thing forward. We're running on a record that shows that's what we've been doing. And as I say on a regular basis, I'm proud of the work we've done, but there's a lot of work to be done. And we need to be serious about our focus and our efforts on the go forward to continue to accomplish these things. And so thank you for having me today.